Have you ever caught yourself thinking in extremes, believing that if one thing goes wrong, everything is going to fall apart? Or assuming that if someone doesn't love you completely, that they must hate you? These thought patterns are probably not coming from the rational adult that you think that you are. Instead, they could be the echoes of your wounded inner child. In today's video, we are going to deep dive into these thinking patterns that stem from a wounded inner child and how they're impacting your life, and not in a good way either. In fact, they are limiting you. And the thing is, you've always thought this way, so you don't understand the difference. But I'm here to help you with that. Before we break down the influences that your inner child has on your life and your thinking, we're going to break down what an inner child actually is. Your inner child is a young version of you, the part that absorbed beliefs, fears, and emotional patterns from their early experiences. The thing you need to understand is that children do not think like adults. Children have a very different way of thinking. They have a very naive way of thinking, a very magical way of thinking. They just perceive things in a very different way. And the thing is, these thinking patterns can lead on and kind of spill over into adulthood when we aren't developed as young children, when our needs are not met, when we have a wounded inner child. So when you have a wounded inner child, when you're older, you don't magically just become an adult and think in a very positive way or in a very healthy and balanced and rational way. No, you continue to think like a child. And some of these thought patterns I want to touch on because me learning about them has made me more aware of my own thinking patterns and how I've been thinking like a child. Here's me thinking that I think like a mature adult. And you know what? We all think like this, okay? We all assume that we are thinking in the most mature, balanced, and right way. But upon further inspection, it may not be the case. Children lack logic. They see the world in extremes. They personalize everything. If a child is neglected, the child doesn't think, oh, my parents are busy. The child thinks, I'm not worthy. They don't love me. If your father abandoned you, you don't think, oh, my dad, he probably has unresolved issues of his own. He probably has a wounded inner child. Nah, you're not going to think that. You're probably going to think, oh, I'm not good enough. He doesn't like me. You may think that all men will abandon me. These patterns don't just disappear when we grow up and become adults. Now let's explore some of the ways in which your wounded child will speak through you. One way in which your wounded child will speak through you is by absolutizing everything. This means black and white thinking. Children are absolutizers, okay? They see everything as all and nothing. If you don't love me, you must hate me. If I fail at this, I'm a complete failure. If one person betrays me, I can never trust anybody again. This inability to see the in between creates intense emotional reactions and unnecessary suffering. How to heal this? You can train yourself to see the gray areas in life because there are so many nuances in everything, okay? That not everything is black and white. In fact, nothing is black and white. Everything is so interconnected and, affected by everything that we can't just say one thing is one thing or the other thing is another thing. That's just a matter of perspective, and that's also the judgments you're placing upon them. So learning this will really help in life. You can begin to replace absolute words like always and never with words such as sometimes and often. You can also remind yourself that setbacks do not define you. In life, we're just all learning, okay? No one was given a manual on how to do life. I know I wasn't. So you're just traversing through this beautiful tapestry called life and creating. And sometimes we're going to make mistakes and sometimes we're going to have to go over them. And to be honest, I don't even like to label anything as a mistake. We are just making different choices. And some choices really align with us and some don't maybe align with us, and then we can learn from them. You learn more from making mistakes than you do from success anyway. So it's a great thing. It's something to be honored and to be embraced because everything is divine. Everything is set up in such a beautifully intelligent way. It's divinely orchestrated for you to get to where you need to be. Another way in which children think is through emotional reasoning. It's where you think, okay, I feel it, so it must be true. This is because children believe that emotions define their reality. This is why when a child feels guilty, for example, they may assume that they are a bad person. A child who feels unloved may assume that they are unworthy. As adults, we continue these patterns, unfortunately, like I said, because they just aren't healed. We don't understand that they aren't actually working. And most of the time, we're not even aware of them. It could be things like, oh, I feel anxious about this situation, so it must be a really dangerous situation and I need to get out of here. This is why you may run from things rather than face them head on because it just feels too intense. Or things like, I feel unworthy, so I don't deserve success. How can you heal this? You can begin to recognize that emotions are signals, they're not facts. Emotions are divine, okay? Emotions are super important because emotions are telling you. It's like, you know why we have traffic lights when you're driving? It's telling you, right? It's like, okay, it's good to go, we're safe. Okay, maybe not, slow down. Okay, stop. That's exactly what emotions do for you. So understanding them, that they're trying to tell me something rather than they are set in stone and I need to react, and because I feel this, that it must mean this. You can also begin to question your feelings and ask yourself, just because I feel like this, does this mean that this is true? Because a lot of times your thoughts create certain emotions that go with the thought. So it's like your emotions are, it's like a loop. It's like thoughts affect your emotions and your emotions affect your thoughts. So if you're having, very, like, let's say, angry thoughts, it will affect your emotions. It will make you feel angry. So you can ask yourself, what thoughts are behind these emotions? Can I believe this thought? Is this thought 100% true? For this, I would definitely recommend researching the work by Byron Katie. She talked about this exactly, where she was really, really depressed, and she realized eventually that it was her thoughts that were making her feel like this, because if she didn't believe certain thoughts, then she would feel happier. And there's a process that you can go through. Let me know if you want more information on that in the comments. You can begin to separate emotions from reality, because at the end of the day, your perspective defines everything. And someone who has a positive attitude towards life will begin to have more positive emotions. So even if they do feel sad or they feel a certain way, they'll understand where this is coming from. Is this coming from the fact that I had a wounded inner child and my inner child didn't get their, needs met when they were a child, or this triggered them and this is something that I have to explore? It's rather than using this to your demise, your emotions to your demise, and, bringing you down, what you can do is you can choose to use it in a way that empowers you. You can alchemize these feelings and really dig deep and do some soul work, like do some shadow work. Triggers are the best thing ever in life, if you allow them to be, if you can explore them, because they are giving you a glimpse into your subconscious. And when we can have a glimpse into our subconscious, when we can read and know who we are, you are so powerful. The people who act out in certain ways, when people act out in certain ways or they do things that they would never do, it's because they don't know themselves well. So they assume, okay, I don't know where this came from. I don't know why I said this thing. I don't know why I just erupted with emotion. I don't know why I just got triggered. Well, yeah, it's because you don't know yourself. To be in communion with God means to be in communion with yourself, because the two are one and the same. So the more you know yourself, the more you'll trust yourself, the more you'll understand why you do certain things, why you feel certain ways, why you say certain things. And then the closer your relationship with God will be, whatever your, you know, definition of God is. Everybody has an aspect of God within them. This is why the more you know yourself, the more you know God. So beautiful. Another way in which children think is egocentric thinking. This is where you take everything personally, because when you're a child, everything just revolves around you. You think it's your world and everyone's just living in it. For example, if a parent is absent, you think it's because of you. You're like, oh, they don't love me. I'm not special enough. I'm not significant enough. When left unchecked, these same thinking patterns follow you into adulthood, which can make things very, very tricky and makes you a very hard person, like a very difficult person to relate with. For example, if someone doesn't text you back and you start getting really stressed out and anxious, thinking, oh my God, why would they not text me back? Are they mad at me? Do they not like me? Did I say the wrong thing? Rather than thinking, maybe they're busy. Maybe I just need to give them some space. This is something that I actually used to suffer with in my relationships. Like, I would question the little things that I would do. Every little thing. Oh, okay, I put a full stop there. Oh my God, I put an exclamation mark there. Oh my God, I did this. I did this. Are they mad at me? Do they hate me? They don't care about me. And it's because you become so hyper focused on the little things, because you're just hyper vigilant about, I don't know, I guess, being abandoned, being rejected. There's just so much fear that comes up. And this is just normal for someone with a wounded inner child. But as I've grown older, what I've noticed in myself is that I give people space. I give people, grace. I allow them to just do their own thing and come back to me when it feels authentic for them. I'm patient. I'm not stressing anymore. It's when you begin to feel more and more secure about yourself, these ways of thinking will definitely change within you, and you'll realize that relationships can be easy. They don't have to be so anxiety fueled and, so stressful, which they used to be, especially if you're someone who's very sensitive or empathetic or just feels their emotions really deeply. Like, it is stressful. For example, if your boss was being a little bit short with you, you can think, oh my God, am I going to get fired? Everything. It kind of links into awfulizing, which we're going to get onto. Notice this also in people where they won't understand other people's perspective and be able to see other people's perspective, and then what happens is you get a lot of victim mentality. I guess that's where victim mentality stems from a little bit, because victim mentality is, okay, it's my world, everyone's against me, oh my God this, oh my God that, if someone didn't do this then they're against me, if someone didn't do this then this means this and this means this, and it's an endless cycle. And the thing is, with the victim mentality, there is no way out of it. There's no way you can ever feel good until you just stop being a victim. I've been watching a lot of videos of, sants and fakirs. So these are like holy people who've meditated a lot. And one thing I learned from this gentleman who was speaking on this subject was, he said, never ever see wrong in other people. If there's an issue that comes up with other people, look back at yourself. Always think that it's you, because it is you, because you are the only thing that exists. It is only you. Whenever I have some sort of issue with someone, or I'm feeling a certain type of way, I just think, okay, why am I feeling like this? What in me feels triggered? When you can take radical responsibility for everything in your life, including your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings, then you are in control of your life. No one can tell you shit. How can you heal this egocentric thinking? You can begin to understand that other people's actions aren't always about you. Stop taking things personally. Understand and cultivate a sense of empathy for people. Put yourself in their shoes, because this is real intelligence. Emotional intelligence and social intelligence is the highest form of intelligence. You can have a high IQ, but if you don't have emotional intelligence, you're not going to get very far in life. The most successful people have this. So it's very important to be able to cultivate this, because no one wants to be in relationship with someone in any form where they can't see your point of view, where it's always about them. Everything is very selfish. And I guess that's what true selfishness is. It's not being able to see other people's perspective. It's not thinking, oh, I need a rest day today, I can't go out, okay, let me say no. That's like a good level of selfishness. That's what you want to be. That's valuing yourself. But the other side of selfishness is, oh my God, it's happening to me, oh my God, I'm a victim, blah blah blah, and that's not what you want to be in life. This is why developing emotional intelligence is like the most important thing. Detaching your self worth from external events will also help a lot. You need to keep a very strong foundation, a rich inner life, because you want to be warm blooded. You don't want to be cold blooded. A warm blooded animal is always warm, okay? It's not dependent upon its environment. And your environment will always be changing. You want to keep integrity. You want to keep consistency. You want to keep compassion for yourself and understanding for yourself. And, you want to have this high self concept of yourself, which is unfazed by anything around you. Next thing that I spoke about a little bit is awfulizing. It's something that probably a lot of us do at times, because that's just the way that we've been taught. I think it also comes from our evolutionary biology of, looking out for the negative so that we can protect ourselves. This is usually something children do because they lack the ability to be able to critically think about the future. So they often imagine the worst case scenarios, and this leads into adulthood, leading to catastrophic thinking. This hypothetical fear triggers your inner wounded child, who begins to feel like the worst case scenario is already happening. That is what happens. Every time you envision the worst case scenario, your body's already feeling it, because your body and your mind doesn't know the difference between something that's imagined and something that isn't imagined. So every time you do that, you're exposing yourself to the chemicals of already being there. How can you heal this? You can begin to recognize that this fear-based thinking comes from your inner child. You can begin to think, what are the actual facts? What's the best case scenario that can happen? I did this recently. I really push myself to always ask myself, what's the best case scenario? And I realized that my creativity in that department was not so great. Like in my worst case scenario department, like I'm thriving, okay? I've got like the best worst case scenarios ever, if there can ever be such a thing. But in my best case scenarios, I'm like, what would I actually want to happen? Like, what could happen? What would be the best case scenario? What could be even better than that? But the thing is, remember, your thinking creates your life, okay? Like it sets your perspective and your attitude towards life. So having the best case scenario thinking pattern is the best thing that you can do for your life, because these things will come into fruition because you're sending your focus there, you're sending your attention there, and your attention is your most valuable currency. You can reframe your thinking and look at things that are working out. A lot of times we don't see all the things that we have, all the things that have already worked out, all the things that are currently working out. We have just trained ourselves to look at the things that are less than, the things that we lack. And it's always about having awareness. Look, you're going to trip up sometimes. You're going to think about the worst case scenario. But if you can catch yourself in those moments, that's the key thing. And then reframing that. Last but not least is magical thinking. This is where you believe that reality works like a fairy tale. Magical thinking can lead to passivity, okay? Because on one hand, magical thinking is brilliant because we understand that your thoughts create your reality. However, if unchecked, can lead to passivity. So it can be things like, oh, okay, you know what? If I ignore all my problems, then they'll just fix themselves. So what you do is you kind of put your head in the sand and you're like, everything will just work out. Or it could lead to things such as, if I just find the right person, I'm gonna have my happily ever after. I want to touch on Disney movies because Disney movies, when we're children, lead to magical thinking, right? Like a prince is gonna come and save me. This is why so many women and men embody this type of thinking when they're older. You see a lot of women who want to be like princesses and think, oh, I just need to find my Prince Charming and he's gonna come save me and everything's gonna be okay. And yeah, that used to be me too. I used to think the same thing. When you're a child, you watch Disney movies and you see the prince coming in and saving her and kissing her when she's basically passed out and fainted, and you just have this idea of, oh, my Prince Charming, he's gonna come in on a horse and save me from my life and just make everything okay. And the men think that there is only one right woman and that they have to find her, and they have to face dragons and go through loads of trouble and traverse through the woods and have loads of adventures to find the right woman, and that it's key to find the right woman. This is actually why a lot of men are very nervous at the altar, is because they're like, whoa, is she the right one? Is she not the right one? And this is why a lot of women become very passive and they expect men to just come in and just meet all of their needs, that they can't meet their own needs. The thing is, when your inner child has been affirmed and its needs have been met and you have developed in a healthy way, you don't think like this anymore. But when your inner child is still wounded, you still think like this, which means that you don't take any responsibility for your life. There was this woman who had been in, I think, 3 relationships and like 2 failed marriages, and she just kept thinking, if I just find the right person, if I just find the right person, not understanding that maybe it's her. That's where the problem lies, because she's a common denominator. And this can be kind of seen in many different scenarios, maybe even in your life, where you've had a string of unhealthy relationships and you always blame the partner rather than thinking, okay, maybe it's me. Maybe I need to take a look at me because I'm the common denominator in all of this. So maybe that's where the problem lies. And that's where your power lies. Another example of magical thinking is, if they really love me and they really liked me, they would know what I'm thinking. They would know what I need. I used to think like this. I genuinely used to think that relationships work like this. I was so scared to voice my opinion and voice what I wanted and how I was feeling. And if something upset me, that I would just be absolutely flabbergasted at the fact that these people that I was relating to didn't know what I was feeling. It was crazy to me. Like, how can you not know what I'm feeling? How can you not know what I want? You should know. You clearly don't love me if you don't know. You don't know me that well. This is clearly not very healthy, right? You need to be able to voice things and understand that life just has to be a little bit more rational at times. So, how you can heal this? Take responsibility for your life. Take responsibility for everything, every little thing. Don't ever look outside of you. Always look within, look within, look within, look within. That's why they say all the answers lie within you. And begin to shift from passivity to conscious action. You are in control at the end of the day, amigo. If you think that you're not, then you're having victim mentality, and that's not good. We don't do that here. Struggling to see other people's perspective links in a little bit to egocentrism. But a child's mind is naturally self-focused. They haven't learned how to take on someone else's perspective. This can manifest in adulthood too. Surprise, surprise. It can be something like, if they don't agree with me, they're against me. If they criticize me, they must not. The ways in which you can heal all of these even deeper, well, inner child meditations are amazing because you begin to integrate your inner child with yourself, which means that your level of awareness increases because you become more sensitive to the type of thoughts that you're having. So self-awareness is the key to everything. If we can't be aware of something, how can we change that thing, right? So increasing your level of presence, so this can also be meditating, chanting. This really helps you focus. Learn how to emotionally regulate yourself. Allow yourself to feel every single emotion deeply. If you would like to work with me one-on-one, then the link for that is in the description box down below. If this video resonated with you, then please let me know in the comments below which patterns you may have been engaging with in your own life. If you're ready to shift even deeper, then I have a free identity shifting guide that you can access today and begin to shift your identity. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you would like to be informed about when I next release a video. I love you. Have the best day ever, and I will see you in the next one.